Hi, Kerry again with Best of Us Investors. I'm doing a series of videos that are basically focusing on my theory of investing and how I think I have found a way to find the next big thing that can make me a multimillionaire. I've done the first video was done on Saturday, and which is entitled The Next Tesla, and how I believe I have found a way to identify the stock that will give me the kind of return that Tesla has given many people, including myself, over the last 4 years. And then what I did then was on Sunday, I said I had a proven formula to how to identify these stocks and how to put myself in a position to profit from them. And I shared with you a chart that I have generated that goes back in history and finds the events that created the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Apples and the Teslas, the events that led that created the opportunity for these companies to come to facilitate this change that was coming to our lives, and then making some people very, very wealthy. So what I then set out to do on this chart was say, okay, what is the next event? And I believe the next event is facilitated by the corona crisis, which is then going to create our healthcare revolution. So if I can identify the stocks that are going to facilitate the healthcare revolution, and I can buy them right, I can achieve the kind of profits that people who identified Microsoft and Apple in the digital revolution in the early stages, that the people who identified Amazon as the extreme growth engine from the e-commerce, and then Tesla from the electric vehicle. If I can then identify the stocks in the healthcare field that are going to benefit from the healthcare revolution, I can become a multimillionaire. And you can too. So that's what this video is about, is I want to share with you the stocks that I've identified up until now, the logic that I have put into it, kind of go back over it, and then we'll talk after I share that with you, the exact companies and how I am going to gain an advantage that I can, if things change, if new companies come to the forefront, that I become aware of them and buy in early. Okay, so that's what this video is about. First, I'm not your financial advisor, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Okay, I think the important thing is for those of you who haven't seen the chart, to just go back and look at that quickly. What I'd really encourage you to do is do a screenshot when Jack is going to give you a full screen of this chart, and stop your video, take a screenshot of it, and then print it out so that you have it and you can refer back to it. I'd also suggest you do that when I show you the Excel spreadsheets. So let's go to the chart, and then we'll go to the Excel spreadsheets, and then I'll come back and talk about the specific stocks that I want to be involved in and I think you should be. And then we'll talk about how we can better our position to make sure that we own the right stocks as we move forward. Okay, the whole basis of my investment philosophy is wrapped around this chart here. And in the video that I did yesterday, you saw this chart and I explained it in detail. So the whole premise is, again, that stocks are driven by events, and the events I've listed here, the internet, e-commerce, social media, electric vehicle, big data, and they drive the companies of the future and thus drive their price. So if you can identify the next big thing, you will profit from the escalating growth of their stock. I believe the next big thing is the healthcare revolution. So now let's go to my Excel spreadsheets and take a look at how this exponential growth translates into wealth. Again, this is the past revolutions, the digital, and the big drivers of that was Microsoft and Apple. And you can see the growth that they gained and what their price was in October of '90 and what that stock value of $10,000 has grown to. I did the same thing with e-commerce, social media, and electric vehicle. Then what I went and did was say, okay, what was their average X factor? That is the growth that they achieved. And the average between the Microsoft and Apple is 228, e-commerce being Amazon 143, Facebook 16, and Tesla 52. So we come up with an average of a X factor of 110. I then take that number and put it adjacent to the stocks that I think are going to drive the healthcare revolution. And I divide the healthcare revolution into various categories: genome editing, genome sequencing, pharma, artificial intelligence, and protein sequencing. And there you see the stocks that I believe that are going to benefit from this healthcare revolution. I then put in what their current prices are. I don't know how long it's going to take to achieve this. Again, I went back to the beginning of the movement, the digital, the e-commerce, and these are the years. I just arbitrarily put an 8-year figure. I understand, though, that as a result of Moore's law, what took 31 years to happen it's not going to take that long in the future because things are moving so much faster. So I basically said, okay, I will take the average growth of 110, and if that happens over the next 8 years, what will these stocks that I currently own at this price be worth? And there you see, if I have $10,000 invested in each one. So there you see the numbers. Now, I am of the belief that this eventually is going to be bigger than the digital revolution. So I'm going to say, okay, well, if it is, let's put that 228 number in there and see what that will potentially give us. And you can see on my Excel spreadsheet, it just blows the top out of these numbers. Now, are these numbers, do they mean anything? They mean absolutely nothing. We don't know what kind of multiple it's going to be. We don't know, and that some of these companies might not go bankrupt. But what my bet is, it's much like horse racing. If I bet on the front runners, the ones that have shown the propensity to be successful up until this date, this is a potential of what they might turn into. I'm going to put it back to 110 as a multiple, and I'm still quite happy with that. And if it takes 8 years, or if it takes 3 years, or if it takes 31 years, I really don't care. I do care. Certainly, if it takes 31 years, I'm not going to be here, but I'm going to make a difference in those people who follow me, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren. My point is, I believe, and that's what I need to share with you and emphasize to you, if you don't believe that the healthcare revolution is going to happen, and if you don't think genome editing and genome sequencing and pharma AI and protein sequencing are a part of it, then you have no business being in this. I believe this is the future of investing, and this is how I want to invest. So let's leave this and talk about how I can increase the odds that I have the right stocks in this category to achieve this kind of multiple. All right, that's the nuts and bolts of it. As I have said, I believe it's my future investment potential is going to come from the healthcare revolution that is upon us. And I believe it's going to be in genome editing. And in genome editing, I have chosen Editis, CRISPR, Beam, Nutella, Caribou, and Invate. And then again, if you'll watch my other videos, I explain the difference of what genome sequencing is. That's the first step. And in that space, I've got Pacific Biosciences and Illumina. And then I believe that the artificial intelligence is going to help pharmaceutical companies find drugs faster. And I'm using Abzelera and Schrader, SGDR. And then the next area, which is a refinement of genome sequencing. Genome sequencing will give you, or genomes sequencing will give you the answer to what your body has in it within genes and what will happen in the future. Protein sequencing is more about what's going on in your body now and what pharmaceuticals or drugs do you need to make your life better. So these all tie in together. And as I said, the gain is going to be a multiple, and I don't know what that multiple is, but as I think I showed you in the other video, the earlier video, it really doesn't matter. The multiple is going to be big. The time frame is going to be much shorter what it has been in the past, and the gains are going to be astronomical. So now, do I have all the stocks that are going to participate in this? No, I don't think so. So I need to do two things to make sure that if something else comes on the horizon that is going to be instrumental in this area, that I'm knowledgeable about it. And that's what you need to do if you really want to participate in that. The first step of that is to educate yourself. And I would suggest you read a series of books. The first one that I read about it is Lifespan. This gave me a general understanding of the science. From there, I read A Crack in Creation. This gave me an understanding of what CRISPR is all about, what genome sequencing and genome editing is all about, and I'd recommend you read that book. Then the final book that I read was The Code Breaker. What this did was tell me who all the players are, who the current companies, when this book was written, and it was written in probably early 2020, before the coronavirus. I take that back. I believe it was after the coronavirus because there are references in here to the coronavirus. If you really want to really become, a multi-billionaire, then there's no question you should read these books. But if you're lazy and you want to just kind of ride the wave, well, then I would say don't read the books and just become a part of our movement, the Best of Us Investors, and come and join us because we will be talking in our Zoom calls about what we've learned this week. And then next week, we do that every Friday. We sit down and we talk and share our knowledge. And every week, I get emails from my tribe members. You ought to read this book too, and it'll explain how our tribe works. And that's how you succeed in investing. You don't just come to a video from somebody that you really don't know, who you don't know if they're pumping or dumping. You have no general knowledge to say, yeah, he's right or he's wrong, but instead join in a group of people who have recognized what's going to happen next and now are basically just trying to figure out who the players are, who's the Microsoft and the Apple, as opposed to those other names that we have forgotten, who's the Amazon, as opposed to those other names that we've forgotten, who's the Facebook, who's the real Tesla. That's the key. And that's what's so exciting about this is if you believe, and this is real important, if you believe the next big thing is healthcare revolution, then all you have to do is somehow figure out who is the big player that's going to make this happen. And then you don't have to have $100,000 in each one of them, because the multiple of growth is so big that it's just going to happen. And you can have some losers in there. So that's my theory on investing. I know no one else talks this way. No one else is that far-sighted. I know you want instant gratification. It isn't going to come. I've owned these stocks, most of them, since November of 2020. I've taken a beating on some of them. But I want you to go and get a chart and look at what happened to Amazon as they evolved, as they matured. At one point, Amazon lost 75% of its value. It was right in the dot-com bubble. These things are going to happen because the investor is not far-sighted. He's looking at what happened today and he's reacting. You've got to get out of that world. And you've got to say, I know what the next big thing is. I've read, I understand what I've read, and I'm knowledgeable. And that gives me an advantage because, trust me, 99.9% of the people out there have not read these books. They have not studied the subject. They don't know what genome sequencing is. They don't know what genome editing is. They don't know what CRISPR is. And they're just throwing money at what they think might happen. I think I know what's going to happen, and I want to share it with you. So that's my take. That's what this channel's all about. That's what Best of Us Investors is all about. That's what our Discord is all about. I'm inviting you to take a step into a different way of investing and educate yourself and become the smartest guy in the room. If you'll do that, you'll be the big winner. Okay, we'll keep talking about this. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to you about the other areas, or the coming videos, the other areas that I'm interested in, the other big changes. I just bought a new book that, if you've seen some of my videos, you know that I think China is going to be a big, big player in what's going to happen relative to our broken supply chain and where the advantages are there. But understand, if China's going to drive this, I've got to understand China. I can't just say, well, so-and-so said. I've got to understand it. So I need to dig through this and watch other videos and read other books so that I, again, become the smartest guy in the room. Once you do that, you have an advantage in whatever you pursue. Once you educate yourself, you're in a different class of people, because most people won't do it. They aren't committed to becoming successful. I am. I'm relentless. And that's why I'll win. All right, talk to you again tomorrow.